If you want to check out the whole show, hit the link here at the bottom of the screen, available exclusively on odds.com. But most importantly, get paid in full. Okay, we move on to 7 p.m. the Montgomery Bowl. Memphis Tigers 7-3 versus Florida Atlantic Owls 5-3. Cramton Bowl, Montgomery, Alabama. We have Memphis as 7.5 point favorites. Some books, PointsBet has them as 8-point favorites. FanDuel has moved that up to 8.5. It did open at Bet365 at 8.5. This total opened up at 52. It's now down to 50. There's a 49.5 on the board, but the leading indicator books have them still up at 51. Memphis coming off winning 4 or 5 games to close a strong season. They were last seen in a 30-27 win at home over Houston. They put up 451.5 yards of offense per game and scored 31.6 points. Senior quarterback Brady White threw for 3,096 yards, 28 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Wide receiver Calvin Austin caught 60 passes for 1,025 yards and 10 touchdowns. Running back Rodriguez Clark ran 125 times for 523 yards. Their defense allowed 29.7 points per game and 448.7 yards. Their defense improved as the season went on. Florida Atlantic is coming off second straight loss and worst performance of the season. 45-31 loss at Southern Mississippi as 9.5-point favorites. Their defense that was so strong all year was gashed. Despite that loss, they still allowed just an average of 16.5 points, 326.4 yards per game. Linebacker Leighton McCarthy was a monster all year. 12.5 tackles for loss, 9 sacks, 7 quarterback hurries. He moved from defensive end over the linebacker as a senior, 40 tackles. Offensively, neither quarterback, junior Nick Tronti, or freshman dual threat Javian Posey took the job and ran with it. Their running game struggled, and now backup running backs Malcolm Davidson and B.J. Emmons are hurt, and they're unlikely to be available. And their running game isn't strong to begin with. T.J. Chase led receivers with just 21 catches for 320 yards and 1 touchdown. The Owls are 4-0 in bowl games. They've scored 50-plus in their last 2 bowl games. But this is a very different Florida Atlantic Owls squad. We're talking Florida football, so we'll start with the big Ragoo here. Memphis Tigers between 7.5 and 8.5-point favorites, and this total around 50. Ragoo, take it away.
Yes. So when Willie Taggart showed up down in South Florida, I figured, okay, what kind of magician is he going to be with these gang of many that Lane Kiffin left behind? But, Lane's going to recruit well, so he's going to leave him some weapons on the offensive side of things. But like you were saying, they started the season off, pretty impressive defensively. But then if you start looking back on those numbers, what they did and who they played, I mean, UMass, Florida International, which is not very good, Western Kentucky, which is not prolific offense, and then Southern Miss, the real tough team that they played, in my book, would have been Georgia Southern, and they only put up 3 points against them, and they lost 20-3. So even though they looked good on paper with the defense, they really didn't have the competition to really, brag about, so to speak. So, and then you go back and you look at who Memphis played. Houston, pretty good team offensively. Tulane, pretty good team. Navy, up and down. And South Florida rebuild. But I would definitely have to give the competition edge, strength of schedule to Memphis here, even though the numbers indicate that Florida Atlantic's defense was pretty good. Now, offensively, with the injuries, they're going to have some difficulty scoring points here. And the thing that Memphis has always have a pretty good, special teams, and we used to call it running back U at Memphis. They've got some major talent, the past few years that went to the NFL in the running back position. A lot of these guys, they do double duties. They go to wide receiver. They can play kickoff returns, but they seem to be missing that punch. And the whole team's been riding off, Brady White's shoulders all year long. And he's done a pretty solid job, with all the missing pieces and some of the injuries they had and some of the COVID issues. So I think Memphis is a lot more of a well-balanced team to that regard. Whether they cover the 8.5, what is it, 8.5 now, you said?
You can get a 7.5.
You can get 7.5? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that would be, what's the total right now?
Depending on where you shop, why don't I just pull it up here, but it's between 49.5 and 51. Yeah, it's actually on the licensed legal American books. It's between 50.5 and 51.
You know what? I'm going to take the under here because I think Florida Atlantic's going to struggle to score points here, and I'm going to really see how good Florida Atlantic's defense. If it's as good as everybody's been saying, they're going. This is probably going to be their toughest test all year, and whether they're up to the occasion, that's not. But I think they're still going to struggle to score points, even though Memphis is not a defensive juggernaut either. But they have played some tougher opponents, and with the injuries and what's going on down in South Florida, I think Memphis would be up to the task to kind of they probably win by 10 points. That's probably the better play, but I'm gonna say that Florida Atlantic is gonna misfire, and so is it Memphis to some regard. So I'm gonna say that it's gonna stay under the 51.5.
What exactly happened in that final game of the year for Florida Atlantic when Southern Miss put 45 on them?
You know what? They did score 31 there, but Southern Miss is a really bad team. They had all kinds of issues. Probably next to UMass, they're probably like a bottom 5 team, Southern Miss, I think, this year, if memory serves me correct. I don't even know what happened in that game. I didn't watch any film. I didn't see anything. I have no idea what happened. What do you think happened?
It's very difficult when I'm breaking down their season to comprehend what exactly went down.
Yeah.
They were 9.5-point favorites on the road. Clearly they took Southern Miss lightly.
Yeah.
But it's a tricky spot. So
yeah,
your 51s here, Ragoo, are very juiced, minus 123. Ooh. But you can get a 50.5. A 50.5 at minus 110.
Yeah, let's do that one.
All right, 50.5 at minus 110 at BetMGM for the Big Ragoo. Let's move down to DJ Big Boss, Memphis Tigers, Florida Atlantic Owls.
Man, I'm gonna switch it up right here. I was gonna stay on my bold looks right here, and in this one right here, you got Memphis lost the last 5 bowls in a row. So I don't know. Maybe they don't play well in bowl games, and like you said earlier, FAU has won 4 in a row. Well, I don't know. Well, they won all 4 of the bowl games that they were in, but I really want to go ahead and take FAU plus the points because I really don't like giving up that amount of points. But the sun does shine on a dog ass someday, and Memphis should get their first bowl win after a long time in this one for sure. Do they cover the number? I'm not 100% confident, but I really like them for the win. So I'm going to go ahead, close my eyes, and take them by the points. But, yeah, give me Memphis in this one.
7.5 and minus 109. It's available at both DraftKings and Bet Rivers. We move on to John Ryan, Memphis, Florida Atlantic.
Well, you guys brought up some great points in that Southern Miss game. Just so if you were curious to know, I was finagling with the database a little bit. What went wrong was that they gave up 514 yards to Southern Miss. What's even more interesting is they completed 13 of 19 passes against Florida Atlantic for that 209. So if my math is right, that's somewhere around 15 yards per completion. So that's really ugly numbers. They had 48 rushing attempts for 305 yards, and those statistics are clearly the best that Southern Miss had all season. In Southern Miss's previous game against Georgia Southern, they had 70 passing yards. So, you're absolutely right, Big Ragoo. It's Florida Atlantic is that's just nuts. I'm looking at the first half total to the over, thinking that Memphis is going to get out to, they're going to want to make a statement. I think they're a team like every year I go through the bowl games and I try to identify the teams that want to be there versus the teams that don't. And it's subjective, but it does isolate the games that you may want to bet on. And, I think Memphis definitely is a team that will be focused, will prepare, and they have some tremendous numbers. First half total 8-0 over when they've had more than 7 days rest. Either a bye week or going into a bowl game. There's another one that has to do with bowl games, and there's 17-2 to the over. So I like the first half total.
All right, let me see if I can
to the over.
Let me see if I can get you better than what's on the board right here. We can get 25.5. Can I beat that? I can beat that. I can get you a 25 at Circa. So we'll go for JR. First.
And that doesn't mean I'm necessarily saying that this game is an over game either. This is a game that I think if Memphis gets out to a lead of, say, 17 or more points, you could see them just focus on shutting down Florida Atlantic's offense, and you could have hardly any scoring at all in the second half, and Bigg Ragoo wins his too.
I hear that. All right. Ragoo on the under 50.5 at BetMGM. Boss on Memphis minus 7.5 at DraftKings. John Ryan on the first half over 25. I have interest in Memphis first half at minus 4.5, but I am just going to stick to the full game minus 7.5 at minus 109 with DJ Big Boss. That's available at DraftKings. All right, we locked in. Prince of the City, much love. Happy holidays to you, my man. Thank you for joining us. So we have Ragoo on the under 50.5 minus 110 at BetMGM. We have John Ryan on the first half over 25 at Circa. And Boss and I are on Memphis Tigers minus 7.5 and minus 109. We move on to Christmas Eve, Thursday, December 24th, 3:30 p.m. Eastern. We start with the New Mexico Bowl. Hawaii, Houston. This total opened up at 61.5. It's dropped to 59.5. Houston opened up as 11-point favorite. That's gone up anywhere between 12.5, 13, and 13.5. Arthur Meade Jr., by the way, is on the under Florida Atlantic team total 20.5. That's a very interesting look, Arthur. Very interesting look.